Here we have yet another Operation Protect the White Boy. I've been on a roll lately with these Operation Protect the White Boys, but shout out to everyone who's sending them to me. And this one's going to be across the pond, but this one's a little bit different. Not because of the crime committed and him getting away with it, but because of the location. Usually when I do across the pond Operation Protect the White Boys is usually the typical place like the UK or London, somewhere over there. But this time we're in Scotland, where you have this 21-year-old by the name of Sean Hogg, who was found guilty of violating this 13-year-old girl, but he ended up walking free from all of this, even though he was found guilty, because he was deemed too young for prison. So as you can see, the same things that they do over here happened over there. And by the way, the girl that he violated was 13 at the time. A violator who attacked a 13-year-old girl in a park has walked free from court after a judge said he is too young to be jailed. Sean Hogg, now 21, was found guilty for violating the teenager at Dalkeith, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, Country Park in Midlothian, Scotland. But Judge Lord Lake said that his age, which was 17 at the time, had to be taken into consideration as a factor during the sentencing. This sounds exactly like what they did with that one here, the one that violated that Asian girl behind the dumpster. What was his name? I know Judge Persky was the one presiding over it, and they did everything that they could to try to protect him. And I still remember to this day what his dad said: "You can't throw away my son's life for 20 minutes of pleasure." That quote just rattles my brain. You think that a young lady being violated is pleasurable? Usually when sex is consensual, it's supposed to be pleasurable for both parties, not just one. As a result, Hogg was ordered to carry out 270 hours of unpaid work. The decision has since sparked outrage among politicians and charities, with Violator Crisis Scotland CEO Sandy Brindley describing the sentencing as worryingly lenient. She said, "This is an extremely serious case, and we are shocked that this perpetrator has not received a custodial sentence. Given the gravity of this crime and the fact it was tried at the High Court, this sentence appears to us to be worryingly lenient. Our thoughts are with the survivor of this crime. For survivors of any sexual violence, it can be very difficult to see reports of convicted perpetrators walking free from court." Scottish Conservative Justice spokesman Jamie Green added, "The lack of a prison sentence is a total insult to the young teenage victim in this case. It once again reaffirms how misguided the S&P sentencing guidelines are in reality and how judges' hands are tied as a result." Court papers state Hogg of South Lanarkshire carried out an assault by threatening the girl and pulling down her lower clothing. He then seized the girl by her wrist, forced her to carry out a sex act on him, and then proceeded to violate her. Hogg appeared in the dock in tears after being found guilty by a jury at the High Court in Glasgow. I don't know why he was crying, but see, that's that PC privilege. As y'all can see, it extends beyond just America. That's why I like doing these videos too, because it'll show that white privilege is not just conducive to the States. It can be found anywhere. We are talking about Scotland right now. This is a whole nother hemisphere and a whole nother time zone where their customs are way different than here. But as you can see, their privilege and white supremacy, like here, flows there as well. That is something that they universally have. If they don't have anything else in common, they got that. Judge Lord Lake said violation is one of the most serious crimes, and that is why it is tried at the High Court. Then why did you give him such a lenient... Well, you didn't even give him a sentence. You let him walk free. Now, that's very hypocritical of this judge to sit there and say that, and you just let this individual who violated a 13-year-old girl walk free. That's very condescending. Looking at the circumstances, her age and vulnerabilities are aggravating factors. For the level of seriousness, I have to consider your liability and have regard to your age as a factor. But now you're making it seem like he's the victim. There's only one victim here, and that was the little girl. This offense, if committed by an adult over 25, you attract a sentence of 4 or 5 years. So you're telling me if he would have just waited another 8 years, he would have got jail time. Got you. He said, I don't consider that appropriate and don't intend to send you to prison. You are a first offender with no previous history of prison. You are 21 and were 17 at the time. Prison does not lead me to believe this will contribute to your rehabilitation. This is from the judge, y'all. These are quotes that I'm reading that came from the judge that let this guy walk free. And if I could find a picture of the judge, I'm going to put him somewhere, maybe in the thumbnail or somewhere in this video. Because in all honesty, now there's two villains to the story. This one and the judge. Hogg was also placed under supervision and put on the sex offenders registers for 3 years. He should have been on there for life, honestly. I truly believe if you get on that sex offenders list, you should be on there for the rest of your life, because there's no rehabilitating that. Donald Findlay, KC defending, told the sentencing that an appeal is planned. For what? Why would you even appeal that? It doesn't look like there's anything to appeal. Jamie Klingler, the co-founder of Reclaim the Streets, branded Hogg as UK's Brock Turner. That's who it was. I'm glad they put it there. Brock Turner. That's the one I couldn't think about. The one that violated the Asian girl behind the dumpster. See? Even they agree. When I use Brock Turner as an example, they said that he is UK's Brock Turner. Brock Turner was convicted by a jury trial of 3 counts of felony sexual assault in California in 2016. And before I go any further, I feel like I don't know my geographical surroundings that well. And I know y'all already probably got me in the chat in the comment section before I even had a chance to correct myself. But it does turn out that Scotland is in the UK. It's like a tiny spot in the UK. But I'm always so used to just saying London or UK. But it's all there, but it's its own city, its own little, whatever, not city, but its own nation. But back to the story. He was sentenced to 6 months in jail, followed by 3 years of probation, but was released after 3. The case sparked national outrage and led to the judge being recalled from the bench, which was Judge Persky, and for the California government to require prison terms for violators whose victims were unconscious and to include digital penetration in the definition of violations. Chanel Miller was known as Emily Doe during the trial before she waived her anonymity and published a memoir about her experience going through the justice system in 2019. So even they used Brock Turner as an example like I did before I even got to that part of the article, because that's like the perfect example to use as far as recently. And the same thing happened here. And you know what's so crazy? In this picture, he kind of looks like Brock Turner. That's the scary part. Him and Brock Turner look like they could be related. And the irony of it all is that they both committed the same type of crime. Now, I ended up finding a picture of who I believe is him, because every time I typed his name in, this picture kept coming up of this Judge Lord Lake. Now, Lord is not his first name, but Lake is. But I think his name is Jonathan Lake. And I believe this is him. And if this is him, this is the one who is the other villain of this story that allowed this POS Sean Hogg to walk after what he did. I don't care if he was 17 when he did it at the time. The fact of the matter is that he did it. And see, they probably were looking at, well, he's not 18. He's a minor himself. That doesn't matter. He still violated a young child. Now, my thing is, was the child 13 at the time when he did it, or were they younger? Because it doesn't specify in the article that the girl was 13 during that time. It just says that she was 13, that she's 13. Is that 13 now, or was that 13 then? Either way, it's still bad. It's still horrific. But this is the guy, as far as I know, because it's the picture that kept coming up, and I looked a couple of places, and this is the same thing that this picture kept popping up, that allowed this individual to walk free. So as you can see, that on code thing is universal. It don't matter if they in the States or abroad. They gonna get on code regardless. And this is Scotland we're talking about. We're talking about a lily white place. So 9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10, the victim was a little white girl. And if you notice, a lot of the times when they walk free for these type of cases, a lot of the times it doesn't matter what the race of the woman is. They're going to let them walk regardless, whether they black, white, south of the Borderian, Asian, it don't matter. They'll let them walk no matter what. And that's just playing into that savage nature. But for some odd reason, they want to play up the big black boogeyman trope and make it seem like black men are the ones going out here committing all of these violations. And the crazy part about it is the fact that he's not doing any jail time behind this means that he cannot be added to the violent crimes list under the category of being a violator. Because technically, you know, even though he pled guilty to it, he didn't serve like really any jail time. I mean, they'll probably put him there. I'm not sure. But when you don't get technically quote unquote charged and those charges go through, meaning a conviction, then they snatch those charges back and they don't have to put you there. And then he's only going on the sex offenders list for 3 years. Once these next 3 years pass, he's pretty much a free man altogether. And this story is going to get buried before that even happens. So he'll just be walking by through life, just floating on by. Nobody will know who the hell he is and what he did. And it's all because of this guy right here.